Have you ever helped someone and walked away feeling smaller than before? Not tired, not busy, smaller, as if some part of you had been quietly taken. Here is something no one teaches you. Kindness without discernment is not virtue. It is self-destruction wearing a gentle mask. There are people in this world who will drink from your light until you are standing in the dark and call it friendship. And the tragedy is not that they take. The tragedy is that you keep offering. By the end of this, you will know exactly who these people are. You will know why your help has never changed them, and you will finally understand the difference between compassion and self-abandonment. 1. The person who never says thank you. I want you to remember someone. Not by name, just by feeling. Someone you helped. Someone you stayed up late for, gave your energy to, maybe even sacrificed something small of your own life for. And when it was done, nothing came back. No word, no look, no acknowledgement that you had mattered. Sit with that feeling for a moment. Do not rush past it, because inside that feeling is a lesson most people never learn until they are exhausted, bitter, and quietly resentful of the very people they once loved helping. Here is the truth I learned slowly, through many years of watching human behavior, both in myself and in others. Gratitude is not a reward you demand, but gratitude is a signal. It tells you whether the person receiving your energy understands what energy is. A person who never says thank you is not simply forgetful. They are revealing something about how they see the world and how they see you inside it. Some people were taught early in life that receiving is normal and giving is optional. Perhaps they grew up with parents who gave endlessly and asked for nothing, so they never learned that effort has a cost. Perhaps life simply handed them enough comfort that struggle became invisible to them. Whatever the root, the result is the same. They take and take and take, without ever pausing to notice the hands that are giving. This is not about ego. I am not telling you to help people so they will praise you. Praise is not the point. Awareness is the point. When someone repeatedly fails to acknowledge what you give, your time, your patience, your resources, your emotional labor, they are teaching you, through their behavior, exactly how much attention they are paying to your existence. And you must believe them. We often ignore this signal because we want to be generous people. We tell ourselves, I don't help others for recognition, and that is noble. But there is a difference between not needing recognition and continuously ignoring the absence of basic human respect. A tree does not need applause to grow, but a tree also does not keep giving fruit to hands that keep breaking its branches. Ask yourself something honestly. In your life right now, is there someone who receives your help as if it were owed to them? Someone who has never once asked how you are doing, what you are carrying, what your own struggles might be. If such a person exists, you already know the answer in your body, even if your mind has not caught up yet. The wisdom here is simple, but simple does not mean easy. When gratitude is absent, attention is absent. And where attention is absent, love, real, mutual, conscious love, cannot fully exist. You may still choose to help such a person. That is your right. But do it with open eyes, not out of habit, and never out of the quiet hope that one day they will finally notice you. Because sometimes the very people who take the most from us are the ones who have mastered a much more dangerous art. The art of making their taking look like suffering. 2. The manipulator who wears the mask of the victim. There is a particular kind of person who never asks for help directly. Instead, they perform their pain in front of you until helping them feels like the only humane thing left to do. And if you hesitate, even for a moment, they make you feel like the villain in a story you never read to be part of. This is one of the most difficult truths to accept, because it challenges something sacred in us, our instinct to protect those who appear wounded. Compassion is one of the most beautiful qualities a human being can carry. But compassion, when it is not paired with clarity, becomes a door that anyone can walk through, including those who mean you harm. The manipulator wearing the mask of the victim understands something most people do not consciously realize. Sympathy disables judgment. When we see someone in apparent distress, our natural response is to stop evaluating and start rescuing. We do not ask, is this true? Is this fair? Is this sustainable? We simply act. And a person who understands this, whether consciously or through years of learned behavior, can use your goodness as a tool against you. Notice the pattern. Every conversation somehow circles back to their suffering. Every boundary you attempt to set is met not with respect, but with a deeper wound, a heavier sigh, a more desperate story. You begin to feel guilty for having limits at all. You begin to apologize for things that were never your fault. Slowly, without noticing, you become responsible for a happiness that was never yours to create. I want to be clear about something important. Real victims exist. Real suffering is everywhere, and it deserves our compassion, our patience, and our presence. This is not about becoming cold or suspicious of every person who struggles. This is about learning to distinguish between someone who is healing and someone who is performing, between a person asking for support to grow and a person demanding rescue so they never have to. Here is a quiet but powerful test. Ask yourself, after I help this person, do they show any sign of moving forward? Or does the story simply repeat, with new details, next week, next month, always requiring the same response from you? Growth leaves evidence. Manipulation leaves exhaustion. The victim mask is particularly dangerous because it disguises control as fragility. The one who seems the weakest in the room is sometimes the one holding the most power over everyone in it, because no one dares to question someone who appears so broken. But ask yourself honestly, when you strip away the performance, who benefits from your guilt? Who gains from your silence? Who grows stronger while you grow smaller? I am not asking you to abandon empathy. I am asking you to protect it, because empathy given without discernment eventually turns into a resource that gets mined until nothing is left. And once you understand this pattern, you will start to see it everywhere. In friendships, in families, in relationships you swore were built on love. But there is another kind of person, quieter than the manipulator, less dramatic than the false victim, and in some ways, more draining than both. 3. The one who only calls when they need something. Think about your phone. Think about the names that appear on it. Somewhere among them, there is likely a person whose calls follow a pattern so consistent you could set a clock by it. Silence for weeks, sometimes months. Then, suddenly, a message. Warm, familiar, as if no time has passed at all. And within minutes, you understand why they reached out, not to see how you are, but because they need something only you can give. This is a subtle wound, because unlike the ungrateful person or the manipulator, this individual may not be cruel. They may not even be aware of what they are doing. But awareness does not erase impact. A person who only appears in your life during moments of need is telling you, through consistent action, what role you occupy in their world. A resource, not a relationship. Here is something worth understanding deeply. Real connection is not measured by how someone treats you when they need you. It is measured by how someone treats you when they do not. Anyone can be warm while asking for a favor. The truer test of character is presence without agenda, showing up simply because someone matters, not because something is required. When you notice this pattern in someone close to you, do not immediately assume malice. Ask yourself instead, have I taught them, through years of always saying yes, that I will always be available, regardless of how I am treated in between? Many of us unintentionally train the people around us. We answer every late-night call. We drop our own plans without hesitation. We give freely, without ever expressing what we need in return. And over time, people learn exactly how much space we will allow them to take, without resistance. This is not about becoming transactional in love. Real relationships are not built on scoreboards, counting who gave more, who called first, who owes whom. But there is a profound difference between generosity and self-erasure. Generosity flows both ways, even if imperfectly. Self-erasure is one-directional, a slow disappearing act, performed quietly, for years, until one day you wonder why you feel invisible to people you have given so much to. I want you to consider something that may feel uncomfortable. Some people are not cruel enough to hurt you directly. Instead, they simply use you conveniently, comfortably, repeatedly, because you have never shown them there might be a cost. And the moment you begin creating that cost, by expressing your own needs, by stepping back, by choosing not to answer instantly, you often discover the truth of the relationship in their reaction. Do they notice your absence? Do they ask why you have grown distant? Or does the silence simply continue, undisturbed, until they need something again? This single realization can be one of the most freeing moments of a person's emotional life. Understanding that consistent presence is not weakness, and setting quiet boundaries is not betrayal. It is simply the practice of valuing yourself enough to notice how you are being treated and responding with truth instead of habit. But there is one more pattern, perhaps the most painful of all, not because of what someone takes from you, but because of what they refuse to take for themselves. 4. The person who refuses to help themselves. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes, not from giving too much, but from giving to someone who will not receive it in any meaningful way. You offer guidance and they nod, and nothing changes. You offer solutions, and they explain, patiently, why none of them will work. You offer your time, your resources, even your hope, and somehow, the problem remains exactly where it started, as if untouched by everything you poured into it. This is one of the hardest truths a caring person must learn. You cannot want someone's growth more than they want it for themselves. You can walk beside a person, you can light the path, you can even carry them for a while, when life becomes too heavy. But you cannot walk the road for them. And if you try, if you exhaust yourself attempting to force change onto someone who has not yet chosen it, you will not save them. You will simply drown alongside them. I have watched people offer years of their lives to someone stuck in the same pattern, the same excuses, the same comfortable suffering, believing that this time their love would be the thing that finally creates change. And I have watched those same people grow tired, bitter, and quietly broken, because effort without willingness is a well that never fills. Understand something important here. There is a difference between someone who is struggling and reaching, and someone who is struggling and resisting. The first person may fall many times, but each time, something in them tries again. The second person has, consciously or unconsciously, found a strange safety inside their own difficulty. Change would require facing something they are not yet ready to face. And so, every solution you offer is met with a reason it will not work, because the real goal was never to solve the problem. The real goal was to be comforted while staying exactly the same. This does not mean such a person is beyond hope. People change, sometimes suddenly, sometimes after years of appearing unchangeable. But that change must come from within them, a moment of their own choosing, born from their own pain, their own reflection, their own readiness. Your role is not to manufacture that moment through endless sacrifice. Your role is to remain honest, to remain present where it is healthy to be present, and to release the belief that their transformation is somehow your responsibility to complete. This is perhaps the most liberating shift a caring heart can make. Understanding that love does not require rescue. Sometimes, the most loving thing you can offer someone is simply the truth, spoken clearly, and then the space to decide what they will do with it. When you begin to recognize these 4 patterns, the person who never says thank you, the one who performs suffering to control you, the one who appears only when convenient, and the one who refuses to help themselves, something begins to shift inside you. You stop asking, "How can I give more?" and start asking a much more important question. Where is my energy actually welcome? This is not the end of your compassion. It is the beginning of your wisdom. 5. The one who punishes you for your success. I want you to notice something that happens quietly, almost invisibly, in certain relationships. You achieve something, something you worked for, something that cost you sleepless nights, sacrifice, patience, and instead of finding warmth in the eyes of someone close to you, you find distance, a shortened reply, a joke that cuts slightly deeper than it should, a silence where celebration should have been. This is one of the most confusing wounds a person can experience, because it does not come from an enemy. It comes from someone who is supposed to be on your side. And so, instead of questioning them, most people question themselves. They shrink their achievements. They stop sharing good news. They learn, slowly, to hide their own growth, simply to keep peace, with someone who cannot celebrate them. Understand this clearly. When someone punishes you for your success, through coldness, through comparison, through subtle sabotage, it is rarely about you. It is about the mirror you have accidentally become. Your growth reflects, to them, everything they have not yet done in their own life. And rather than face that reflection honestly, it becomes easier to dim your light than to build their own. This is a deeply human weakness, and I ask you to hold it with some compassion, even as you protect yourself from its effects. Jealousy, when unspoken and unexamined, does not stay still. It transforms into criticism, disguised as honesty. It transforms into absence, disguised as being busy. It transforms into backhanded comments, disguised as jokes. And slowly, you begin to feel guilty for the very things you should be proud of. Here is a question worth sitting with. Who in your life makes you feel like you must apologize for doing well? Who changes the subject when you mention progress, but lingers, fully present, when you mention struggle? This pattern reveals something important. Some people are only comfortable loving you when you need saving, not when you are rising. You are not responsible for managing another person's insecurity by staying small. Your growth is not an act of aggression. Your success does not require anyone's permission, and it certainly does not require anyone's comfort. The people meant to walk beside you through life will find a way to celebrate you, even while quietly working on themselves. Those who cannot do this are not showing you who you are. They are showing you where their own healing has not yet reached. But sometimes, the resistance to your growth does not come in silence. Sometimes it comes loudly, constantly, dressed in complaints that never seem to end. 6. The chronic complainer who rejects every solution. There is a particular kind of conversation that leaves you more tired than physical labor ever could. You sit with someone, you listen to their problem, you offer a solution, carefully, gently, and instead of relief, you receive resistance. Another excuse, another reason it will not work, and within minutes, the same problem returns, wrapped in slightly different words, as if your solution had never been spoken at all. At first, you believe you simply have not found the right answer yet, so you try again. You offer another idea, another perspective, another piece of your own hard-earned wisdom, and again, it is rejected, gently but firmly, as though the real goal was never to solve the problem, only to keep discussing it. This is important to understand, because it separates two very different kinds of people who may look identical on the surface. One person complains because they are searching for a way out and have simply not found it yet. Their frustration is genuine, but underneath it is hope, however faint. The other person complains because complaining itself has become the comfort. The problem has become an identity, a familiar companion, something that offers attention and sympathy without requiring the harder, more uncertain work of change. I do not say this to make you cold toward those who struggle. Suffering deserves compassion, always. But compassion is not the same as endless participation in someone else's refusal to move forward. When you find yourself offering the same advice over and over to the same person about the same situation, with no evidence of anything shifting, you are not failing to help them. You are simply witnessing a choice they have already made, whether they realize it consciously or not. There is a quiet exhaustion that builds inside people who care deeply, caused not by hard problems, but by unsolvable ones. Unsolvable not because no answer exists, but because no answer will ever be accepted. And if you are not careful, you begin to absorb their heaviness as your own responsibility. You begin to feel that if you just explain it better, if you just care more, if you just stay a little longer in the conversation, something will finally change. Sometimes, the most respectful thing you can offer another human being is honesty instead of endless patience. You can say, gently but clearly, that you have offered what you can, and that the next step belongs to them. This is not abandonment. This is trust. Trust that they are capable of choosing, even if they choose slowly, even if they choose imperfectly, even if they do not choose at all. Your energy is not infinite, no matter how much your heart wishes it were. And every hour spent circling a problem someone refuses to release is an hour taken from the trass of your life, still waiting for your full attention. There is one more pattern, quieter than complaint, deeper than jealousy, the moment when someone stops asking and simply begins to take. 7. The person who disrespects your boundaries. At some point in your life, you will say the word no. Simple, honest, necessary. And in that moment, you will learn something important about the people around you, not from what they say, but from what they do next. Some people, upon hearing your no, will pause, respect it, and adjust. This is what healthy connection looks like. But others will push. They will ask again, differently. They will act hurt, as if your boundary were a personal betrayal. They will find quiet ways to punish you for daring to have a limit at all. And slowly, you learn that saying no comes with a cost. So you say it less and less, until eventually, you stop saying it altogether. This is one of the most dangerous patterns a person can fall into, because it disguises itself as kindness. You begin to believe you are simply being agreeable, easygoing, generous with your time and energy. But underneath that belief is something more troubling, a quiet fear that your limits will not be respected, so it feels safer not to have them at all. I want you to understand something clearly. A boundary is not selfishness. A boundary is not coldness. A boundary is simply information, a way of telling the world what you can carry and what you cannot. And any person who consistently disregards that information, who treats your limits as obstacles to negotiate rather than truths to respect, is showing you something essential about how they see you, not as a whole person with your own needs and limits, but as a resource, available whenever it is convenient for them. Notice how this person reacts to your no. Do they accept it with grace, even if disappointed? Or do they guilt you, ignore you, repeat the request as though you had never spoken? This reaction tells you everything. Respect is not present in how someone treats your yes. Respect is revealed in how someone treats your no. Every time you allow a boundary to be crossed without consequence, you are not just permitting one instance of disrespect. You are teaching that person, through experience, exactly how far they are allowed to go the next time. And people, more often than we wish to admit, will go exactly as far as they are permitted. Reclaiming your boundaries will feel uncomfortable at first, especially with those who have grown used to your limitless availability. There may be conflict, there may be distance. Some relationships may not survive the shift, and this is a painful truth worth preparing for. But a relationship that only survives on your self-erasure was never built on solid ground to begin with. And this brings us to a pattern that touches all the others. Quiet, painful, and perhaps the most revealing test of any relationship you will ever face. 8. The one who only loves you when you are useful. There is a specific kind of loneliness that exists, even while surrounded by people. The loneliness of being needed, but never truly known. Of being called upon constantly, appreciated conditionally, and loved only in proportion to what you can provide. This is not love. This is usage, wearing love's language, love's smile, love's familiar voice. You will recognize this pattern by a simple, quiet test. Imagine for a moment that you had nothing left to offer, no favors to give, no resources to share, no emotional labor left to spend. Would this person still choose to sit beside you? Would they still call, simply to hear your voice? Or would their presence fade the moment your usefulness did? This question is not meant to make you cynical about human connection. It is meant to help you see clearly, perhaps for the first time, who in your life loves you for who you are, and who loves you for what you provide. These two things can look remarkably similar on the surface. Only time, only difficulty, only the moments when you have nothing left to give will reveal the difference. I want to remind you of something important as we come to the end of this reflection. Every pattern we have explored, the ungrateful, the manipulative, the convenient, the resistant, the jealous, the complaining, the boundary-breaking, the conditional, they are not simply categories of difficult people to avoid. They are mirrors, teaching you, again and again, the value of your own energy, your own time, your own heart. You were never meant to pour endlessly into spaces that give nothing back. You were never meant to shrink yourself so others could feel comfortable. You were never meant to earn love through exhaustion. The people worthy of your compassion will meet you with equal presence, equal respect, equal care. Not perfectly, because no human being is perfect, but honestly, consistently. and without conditions attached. This is not a lesson in becoming distant from the world. It is a lesson in becoming discerning within it. Keep your compassion, keep your generosity, keep the softness that makes you who you are, but place it where it is honored, not where it is quietly consumed. Because the truest measure of your wisdom is not how much you are willing to give, it is knowing, with clarity and courage, exactly who deserves to receive it.